Ikejagu is that catalyst. This book, Constitution in Africa, will not happen by accident. It will not happen through good intentions alone. It will happen through deliberate financing, through smart policy, through institutional courage, and through the kind of rigorous evidence-based advocacy that this book represents. So let us live here today, not merely inspired, but activated. Let us buy the book, let us read it, let us share its recommendations. Let us hold our institutions accountable to its findings. Let us make the conversation that begins in this room the conversation that changes the trajectory of energy access in Nigeria. Because of these 19 million Nigerians who are still wallowing in the dark and waiting, and they have waited long enough. On behalf of the REA and on behalf of the entire family of the REA, my MD, congratulates Dr. Cheryl Ikejagu on this extraordinary achievement. This book will travel far, influence widely, and light the way, literally and figuratively, for millions of Nigerians. Thank you very much. God bless everybody in the room. God bless Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm applause for the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of the Rural Electrification Agency, REA, Alhaji Abubakar Abba Aliyu, ably, capably, and reliably represented by the Director in charge of Legal Services, Malam Ibrahim Kashim. One interesting thing about being an MC is when you come to events, of any kind of events, there's always a tendency that you tend to expand your vocabulary. The first time I'm actually hearing the expression economic hemorrhages. That's amazing. I've never heard that before. But whatever hemorrhage there is in the sector, the game plan is to make sure that we actually flush it out, and then there's a bit more impact in the lives of our people. And also, there's something he mentioned. The MD, CEO of the REA sees this more like a policy document. So what that means is that inferences can be drawn from this book in preferring solutions to the problems that have plagued the industry for years now. And also, Dr. Ikejaku, there's something he said, I don't know if you captured it. He actually gave you an open check. He says they're willing to collaborate. So let's see how we can explore the limitless opportunities in the collaboration between you and the REA. Once again, let's appreciate him with a round of applause. Thank you. And thank you for coming. And our greetings, warm greetings to the MD CEO. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to make this a bit more of an intimate experience. I'm going to take you into the heart of the woman, not the woman, the author, but the woman, the individual who had the inspiration to put herself in the trenches as a human catalyst for the revolutionization of the energy sector in Nigeria amidst all the challenges and the bottlenecks. I'm going to be having a fire chat conversation with her so that I can bring her personality home to this audience. So without further ado, I want to respectfully, humbly invite our author to please come on stage. We're going to have this conversation now. Please, as she comes, let's appreciate her with a round of applause. Thank you. All right, Dr. Cheryl. I call you Dr. C sometimes. So how does it feel? I'm sure it's a very special moment for you. And just like I said in the opening statement, I would want to see how we can get to know you a whole lot better, so that we can have a clear-cut picture of what inspired this intellectual work of art. That's why we're having this fire chat session. I'm going to compartmentalize this conversation. I'm not going to ask you double-barrel questions. They're very, very straightforward, and I'm sure they're questions you can comprehend very easily. Dr. Cheryl Ikejako, let's start with the origin. You could have written about anything. Well, the stats have it that the energy policy space is somewhat crowded. There's a lot of intervention and interfacing. So it brings me to asking you this question. Why this question, financing the energy transition, and why now?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me start by saying thank you to everyone who made the time to show up. I don't take that for granted. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate you a lot. Okay, so I've asked myself the same question. And I was asking, I said, why? Why the book? What is, why my interest in it? I'll start by saying, at first, when I started my writing my thesis and my PhD in sustainable development, I had this burden. When I first attended the program, the first SDG goal that hit me was the SDG goal 7, affordable and clean energy. I like clean things and I like affordability because I'm a Nigerian. Nobody wants anything that is too expensive that they can't afford. So, and I figured out that the energy sector is one field that influences practically every single aspect of our living and our existence as human beings. And so I said, if we can get energy right, a lot of other things would also fall into place. And so that's why I began to research and see how we can experience better energy access. And then I met, in the course of my work in banking, I met a very fantastic group of people, particularly Mr. Alex Obiechina, and then Mr. Engineer Hallis, and we're having back-to-back conversations on how to finance their projects, the mini-grid projects they had coming, and it was quite a hassle. I said, it shouldn't be difficult to empower Nigeria with energy. And I saw a lot of bottlenecks, and the bottlenecks were transferred to the builders. And so those were the things that caused me to delve into the research in the energy space. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll swerve a bit, and now we get to the core arguments. There is a line in your preface that struck me personally, that this book is not really about electricity systems, it's about the political economy of energy transition. Would you please kindly unpack for us why finance, not technology, is a true bottleneck?
Okay, so everything we do, we need finance. Every business, every aspect of life, any human relationship, you need some form of finance. So anything you want to engage in, you would require some form of funding to execute those activities you have lined up. And then I realized that while the policymakers do all they can on paper to get policy solutions, implementation becomes a challenge. And finance is the crux of implementation. So those are the areas that drew my attention, why I focused on finance. And my background is finance. My background is in economics and statistics.
Interestingly. And then we would take another curve, and we would look at let's compartmentalize it into case studies now. I mean, you could have written a purely theoretical book. Instead, you put yourself on the ground in 5 communities in the FCT. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, she is a very beautiful woman, very elegant, but trust me, she's very dogged. You know, that is why she was able to pick up the facts, not just the figures, but the facts. So my question to you now is, having explored 5 communities in the FCT, I mean, as far in as Rafin Zulfi in Buari district, and into the heart of the commercial nerve center of Abuja, Wuse Market. What did the field teach you that theory did not?
Okay, so the truth is, the population we have in this country is enormous. But they are highly underserved. And that's the major reality check that I found in the course of the research work. Most of the time, we leave it to the layman, the individual, to figure out how things work for themselves. But my experience in that, during my research work, I found out that people will find a way to make it work. Nigerians are rugged. Even in the market, Muslim market with the dense population and the traffic, a lot of them power their spaces, their shops, their businesses. The same thing in the villages. And that's where interconnected mini-grids come to play. So in the little systems and structures are available, they scale one step at a time, just to empower their businesses and even their homes. Medical, farms are powered in rural areas with mini-grids. And so those are the things that I observed in the course of my research that I felt to share with the world. Thank you.
All right. And now we go to the hard truth. Dr. Cheryl, I want you to respond to this wholesomely, without any reservations. This is a very critical aspect of the fire chat. Just a moment. Okay.
His paper is very plenty. I'm scared.
No, don't be scared. Okay. Now to the hard truth. What's the thing you know now that you wish Nigerian policymakers, investors, and developers would internalize when we leave this hall?
Okay, for me, what I expect everyone to take away is you're a catalyst. You're a catalyst. I am a catalyst. We're all catalysts. That's the summary of it. Whether you're a policymaker, you're an energy user, you're a financier, you're a researcher, you're a student, whatever, we are the catalyst and we can make it work. Thank you.
Thank you. Very brisk and straight to the point. I'm going to ask you a personal question. And I'm sure you know what it is. Probably you have a hunch. This book launches or is released. The author is more comfortable with the word release. This book is released on your 50th birthday. Most people will mark their 50th birthday, just like I said in my opening statements, with all the pomp and the pageantry that comes with a birthday celebration. It's not like it's a bad thing, but you decided to mark it with 289 pages of scholarship. Now to the question. What does this book represent for you personally?
Thank you. For me, it just tells me that there's more to be done. 50 years, and this is just one book. I can do much more in the next 30 years.
Right.
There's more to be done.
There's more to be done indeed. Very inspirational. And last and certainly not least, a charge to your audience. If every person in this room could do one thing, just one thing after they leave today, be it a policymaker, an investor, a developer, a scholar, or someone who is interested in conversations around a subject, could you tell me or tell us what you would ask them or what you would charge them to do?
Buy the book.
That's the bottom line. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Dr. Cheryl Ikechako. That was a very heartwarming conversation. Thank you very much. Please, let's keep appreciating her as she goes back to her seat. Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're still on to the Catalyst live here in Maitama, Abuja. Thank goodness we've not had any disruptions in the power supply. What an irony that would have been if we did. And it's this is within the context of sustainable energy access for all. The book, Financing the Energy Transition in Africa, Interconnected Mini-Grids and Sustainable Development in Nigeria, authored authentically by Dr. Cheryl Ikechako. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to yet another high point of our conversations today. The author has magnanimously brought together captains of industry, specialists, and people who are vast within the subject. And these gentlemen, interestingly, members of the panel, are all gentlemen, except, I just realized that she ingeniously had a lady come in so that we can taper down the testosterone. And she's going to be moderating, and just that's on the fun side. We'll be having the panel discussion right about this time. So first, permit me to introduce those who will constitute the panel, but to drive the conversations, I'd first like to invite our very distinguished moderator who, within a short period of time, short notice, he came through to do us the honors of anchoring this event. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor and privilege to invite our very distinguished moderator, very experienced in matters around the conversational room, and she's going to do justice to seeing to it that, when we get into that battlefield of intellectual tackle trading, she'll be able to manage the situation very effectively. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome first our moderator in the person of Chioma Moma. Chioma is here. She is a public policy lawyer and corporate strategist with over 15 years of experience in the public sector. Her career sits at the intersection of law, strategy, and policy implementation. The same intersection the book explores, which makes her an unusually well-equipped interlocutor for a panel whose work must connect legal architecture, financing, theory, and on-the-ground delivery. She is also a member of the top management of Guinness Nigeria. Am I correct? Yes, and she is going to do justice to the subject. Beyond, let me also add here that our moderator for this interaction holds responsibility for the single most important deliberate segment of the day. Her task is neither to dominate the room or to receive from it. And also, she is a woman that has a heart for children and also, by extension, for humanity. Once again, a round of applause for our moderator. Next up, I have the pleasure of inviting our next our first panelist. The gentleman I'm about to invite to the podium is, just a moment. He has over 19 years in the sector. He is currently MD, Chief Executive of General Electric, with a BSc in Civil Engineering and at the Temple University, and an MBA in Marketing and Strategic Leadership from Pennsylvania State University. He leads GE Vernova's Nigerian operations and its gas power business across Anglo-West and Francophone Africa, overseeing heavy-duty and distributed power plants for both grid and off-grid capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome President of the GE Vernova Nigeria Group, Mohammed N. Mijindadi. It's nice to have you. Assalamu alaikum. Next up, I have yet another gentleman panelist. Under his leadership, his company, the ACOB Lighting Technology Limited, has deployed over 25 microgrids serving more than 15,000 households and businesses in undeserved communities, operating on a pay-as-you-go model. He holds a degree in political science from the University of Abuja and an MBA in product development management from Cardiff Metropolitan University, a 2019 Mandela Washington Fellow and Executive Program Fellow of Rutgers Business School. And in Dr. Ikejaku's own acknowledgements, he is credited as the inspiration behind the book. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome Chief Executive Officer of the ACOB Lighting Technology Limited, Alexander Obiechina. The next panelist is honed from the core of the academia. A research focused on the intersection of digital technology and macroeconomics, specifically how digital infrastructure shapes productivity, employment, and national policy. He holds multiple, I repeat, multiple doctorate degrees in telecommunication economics from the Nigerian Defense Academy, Atlantic International University, and has served, as a consulting member of the African Union Committee of Economics. In January 2026, just recently, he was elected chairman of the Congress of Nigerian University Academics, University of Abuja chapter. He authored the book's preface. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome Associate Professor, University of Abuja, Dr. Chukwuemeka Ifebu Eke. Thank you for honoring our invitation, sir. And yet, I have another very distinguished panelist, a seasoned transactional lawyer and corporate governance expert whose career straddles commercial law, infrastructure regulation, and policy development. Before the SEDC, he served as, the SEDC is the Southeast Development Company. He served as senior in-house counsel for special projects at the Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited. He has consulted internationally for Urban Emerge United Kingdom on behalf of the Climate Policy Initiative and sits on the governing council of the Corporate Council Forum of the Nigerian Bar Association. His blend of law firm practice, in-house counsel experience, and direct engagement with climate finance policy gives him a vantage no other panelist can replicate. Pardon the bias, he's my brother. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome Head of Legal and Commission Secretary, Southeast Development Commission, Nana Oketa, Esquire. So very respectfully, I would relinquish this piece of metal to our lady moderator. But just before then, I was informed that this panel will not be complete if we do not have the one that powers the idea of even conceptualizing a panel discussion in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make welcome rounds of applause for our author and lead convener, Dr. Cheryl U. Ikejiako, to join in so that we can get the conversation off the ground. And I'll pass on the microphone to our moderator. Just before I hand over to the moderator, the conference microphones can be powered with just a tap, and then you can speak. For convenience, I'm going to pass on the cordless mic to the moderator. There's a representation here. This gentleman has said he will speak from the floor. As soon as we get clearance from him, we'll have him join in the conversation. But first, let's have Chioma set the ball rolling as we start the conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please let's clap for OBX, who has been doing an amazing job on keeping us all occupied as we come into this beautiful celebration. It's a double celebration, the launch of a book, and of course, the 50th year anniversary of our darling Cheryl Uche Ikejiako. Please clap for our birthday girl. Dr. Cheryl Uche Ikejiako. So we're going to go straight ahead and start this panel. And of course, we always say it's ladies first, and we're going to start with our celebrant today. You've written almost 300 pages, so you have gone into the meat of the matter. We have tried to diagnose the issue with Nigeria's power, energy, and electricity problems, and you will have front row view from the work you've done. Can you tell us in 30, 40 seconds max, what is the top thing that we have been getting wrong? And by we, I mean policymakers and investors in trying to analyze what the problem with our power issues are in this country.
Finance.
Finance.
That's the truth. Finance. Finance has been the is the crux of the matter. Because without finance, well, the policymakers, no matter the exquisite design policies they come up with, finance would help implement. And without proper financing, they can't implement the brilliant ideas they come up with.
So finance.
Finance.
I'm going to stick with you just a bit more to ask you. So finance, so that means, are we going to rely just on the government to provide this much needed finance, or do we need more private investors to come in and take this up?
Absolutely. Everybody has to be involved. Both the government, private sector, and even the individuals, you and I. That's why I said earlier, we are the catalysts. Because the person who is the end user must be willing to pay the premium to get access to energy, no matter how little it is. Because it's everyone that should be involved in the finance aspect of it, whether you're an investor, whether you're a policymaker, whether you're an end user, we are the catalysts.
We are the catalysts. Please clap for Dr. Cheryl. We are the catalysts. And like you've heard her say, everyone has to play their part. It's not just for the government, but every single person has to help this finance issue. So I'm going to go straight to Dr. Eke. You wrote the preface. So more than anybody, I'm sure almost more than the author herself, you would have read this book and you've gone in and out of it. So I want to ask you, what does this book add? You know, when you're doing research work, you're looking for a gap. There's something that's missing. What gap did her book fill to help us with this issue, this challenge that Nigeria and indeed the continent has? Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, when I was going through our material, the manuscript, one thing came to my mind, and that's what you referred to. That is financing. You see, one of the areas we were getting it wrong is that we're starting with the big model. But how did it start? Those that have or boast of this 24 hours power supply, how did it start? Remember, if you can click on your phone, go to the men that built America, book, The Men That Built America, research, true life story. Remember Edison? Remember J.P. Morgan? So, you see, he had this idea. He didn't start from the big model. He started from the small model. He presented, just like Dr. Abuja is presenting today. And he saw the idea, like, wow, I'm going to pay the premium so I have it in my house. That built public trust. Before you knew it, the company was incorporated and it became for everybody in New York City. So, what I saw in the book, what I think all of us should latch onto is the fact that the individual, private sector, public sector come together to finance access to energy supply.
Everybody has to come together. Thank you. Thank you for filling that gap so eloquently, Dr. Ikejiaku. And I'm going to go straight to Mohammed. GE Vernova is one of the biggest players when it comes to this sector. And I'm going to ask an interesting question. If an investor comes in now, $500 million, and they want to, and a mandate to invest, what will make them choose mini grid over gas-fired generation bill? Or what will say, oh, you know what, let's do both, or let's do, different things? What would influence their choice, in your opinion? Can we hear him?
All right. So let me start first of all by wishing you a happy birthday. I've known Cheryl. It's almost 40 years right now. I went to high school with Cheryl, secondary school, I guess, in the broken English term of it. Your question is a cliche. You talked about Edison. Edison went ahead to form what is known today as GE. So we have been in existence as a company looking at various challenging situations in improving access to power for as long as the idea of power has been. Your question, Chomar, about if an investor came today with 500 million to invest, what would they choose between gas? I think the beauty about the conundrum called the dilemma of power access, it goes a little beyond finance. And based on the audiences where I speak, I like to try to tweak it just so that it resonates. The beauty of finance is finance will always flow to the path of least resistance. And what that simply means is for as long as you have limited hindrances, you will always find finance. So while I agree with Cheryl, who's written an awesome book around finance, the problem goes beyond finance. You need an environment that attracts this finance. And once you have the right environment, somebody had mentioned, I think it was one of the keynotes that talked about governance, or it was an excerpt from your book. Once you have the right environment, you have the right governance and policies and regulations that make investments worthwhile, it makes it a lot easier to raise finance because every financier, every investor is trying to make money. So it's a cliche, and the answer to your question, if I was an investor who came, where would I invest my money? I would invest my money where there was least resistance, where I feel I would be able to generate the most returns for either myself or my investors. So it's a bit of a cliche.
Mohammed. So not an easy question to answer, to be honest. And I'm going to stay with you a bit more because I need to get more answers. I think it was REA DG, his representative, that said we have 90 million people of no power, no electricity whatsoever. And I dare say we have much more. And then when we look at our population, over 250 million Nigerians. So there is a market. There are people who need these services, who need to be connected. And like you said, finance flows to the path of least resistance. So there are roadblocks, there are barriers, there are all sorts of things. What are some of these barriers and what can we do? I'm talking about we, not just the GE Vernovas, but everyone. The government people are here, the stakeholders, all the important stakeholders are here, to be honest. What are some of the things we can do to remove these barriers so we can actually have these investors come in and make the profit that they need and deliver the services that are much needed?
Yeah, so I'll try to talk about just three things. There are lots, but I'll try to just talk about three that everyone can resonate with. I think the very first for me is the lack of alignment between multiple players across the power value chain. Now, what do I mean? You have one person who's producing molecules, be it gas or whatever. The incentive of that person to make those molecules available for you to be able to generate power lies in the fact that he feels this is the most lucrative place for him to send these molecules. In the world today, we understand how everyone is rushing around, with all the chaos in the Middle East. Everyone is looking for gas, everyone is looking for oil. If I sat on 100, TCF of gas, am I incentivized to push that 100 TCF into the country here in Nigeria, where I will get chased with the taxman? I may get my money, I may not get my money. Or do I move it into LNG, where I have a global audience of people willing to pay a premium? My incentive as a gas producer is very limited. Then I have a transmission company. The transmission company is either run by the government in this particular case. They have a mandate that says, look, as long as you generate something, just push it through. For them to invest in ensuring that they have more infrastructure across the country, they need money. But if it's a subsidized infrastructure where necessarily you're not getting money to build new lines, you can only build what you have. So my incentive is just to push what I can, and if there are people in other parts of the country who don't have, I don't have the money. Then you have distribution companies, and this is where all of us as catalysts are suffering, right? So all my fellow catalysts are in our various homes. You're trying to get power. Today they tell you you're in band A or band B. If you're not willing to pay a premium, you're not prioritized. They're going to send it to the guys who can pay. My incentive as a distribution company is to send power to people who can pay. So the moral of my story is the very first problem is most of the players across the value chain are not incentivized the same way to solve the singular problem of getting power to your homes. We have the issue around, and I mentioned this about the enabling environment, right? So you need an environment that makes it comfortable for you to be able to do business, right? So if you're in a place today and you're uncertain whether there's going to be a strike, either politically, you're not sure if policies that were put today will be there tomorrow, it creates a lot of uncertainty for both the business owner or the person who is basically accommodating this power. So let me pause for a bit, but these are two of multiple issues that are bottleneck. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. There are things that we can do together, and I think I will agree with both Cheryl and Prof, that because we're all catalysts who are all involved in several of these areas, either directly or indirectly, we all need to find ways that we can work together. So for people across the value chain, the gas producers, the generating companies, the transmission companies, everyone needs to understand we have a singular goal that we need to solve. For people who are in governance, for people who are in private sector like myself, I need to understand that, look, as an investor, I'm incentivized to bring money. My government counterparts need to understand that they need to make the environment attractive for me to want to bring my money here. By so doing, we work together to solve this problem. Same thing with my friends who are also in the solar and distributed power space. So my point is, there are several issues. It's a solution lies in our ability to all work together to kind of get ourselves out of the issue.
Thank you. So there needs to be a handshake across board. Everybody needs to be working together to make sure we get ourselves out of the current situation that we have. I'm going to, because you mentioned the environment, which is so key. And a key part of the environment is the legal landscape, the legal environment, the enabling environment, the acts that exist. I'm going to go to my learned friend, Nana Oketa, straight away. 2 years into the Electricity Act, we now have that act, and we now have different states building their own commissions to produce electricity. I believe Abia State is one of those states. What does the legal and contractual landscape look like for mini-grid developers structuring deals today? And what do they need to know? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question, and happy birthday again, Doc. It's quite a delight to be here. I felt intimidated when my name was called because when the CVs of the guys sitting close to me were reeled out, I just thought maybe I had no business coming here, but it's quite a delight to be here. One of the reasons why I enjoy conversations like this is that this is about energy justice for over 90 million Nigerians, underserved Nigerians. And I find that in panels like this where I have spoken before, the conversation is usually about the commercial and technical mechanics that the populace really do not care about. It is about, lights in our homes. That is what it is about. Simplicity, nothing more. Coming to your question, for me, I think as a developer coming into the sector, there are a few crucibles that you'd have to cross. The first will be the licensing layer, where you would interface with the relevant commission and interface with the relevant state regulatory agency at the state level. And of course, you would understand that with the amendment of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 amended, the fifth alteration specifically, that decentralized the sector. And so the states essentially now have the responsibility and indeed the power to create their own electricity market. And followed quickly by the passage of the Electricity Act 2023 that now devolved that regulatory power from NEC to the states. It seems to me that at the licensing layer, the investor would have to ask two threshold questions. Has the state enacted its own electricity law? And secondly, has it made any specific mini-grid regulation at that state? The gap here is that the answer to the first does not guarantee the second. And so it will be important for the investor to understand that. The second would be what I would call the contractual layer, where as an investor you have to interface with the relevant commission or state agency again to deal with issues around permits, issues around maybe if there are way leave issues, documentation, negotiating your agreement. I think in this case, it will be the tripartite agreement between the developer, the DESCO, and the community. And then maybe a suite of other agreements, O&M and your EPC contracts, most importantly. And the third, for me, would be the financing layer. I agree with Mo that finance would always move to the area of least resistance. Capital is risk shy. One of the most important functions of an agreement is not just the allocation of obligations to parties, it's about allocation and distribution of risk to the parties that are best suited to bear them. And in this instance, public financing, project financing would always move to the place of least resistance. Sherry's book talks about blended finance. The gap that I see in that area as well is that the book assumes that the dual layer regulation which we have, both at federal level and at state level, is of general application. That is not correct. So you would have to deal with multiple licensing regimes, as it were, and deal with sector or state-specific regulations made at that level. But like you said, it's not all doom and gloom. There are a few solutions. First is we can have a tripartite agreement that is endorsed by NEC, that is of general application across both levels. Secondly is that we can have an irrevocable standing payment order that is secured by the state and deducted at source, so that the investor is guaranteed of his income. The tariff is essentially going to pay for this. So, not to take a lot of your time, maybe another, I don't know what other solution would be in this wise, but then maybe also deal with the issue of currency mismatch, which developers always ignore. And so you'd have to deal with the forex true-up arrangements. This can be, of course, addressed in the contracts, and you have escalation mechanisms within the contracts, changing law provisions, stepping rights that allows your investor take on those obligations and perform if you're not performing, make provisions in the contracts for liquidated damages for non-performance or delayed performance, provide comfort, for your investors. So it was important for not just the investor, but the lawyer to also understand that, a letter of comfort from a state commissioner is not necessarily the same as a guarantee provided by government. So these are conversations you have at the level of negotiating the term sheet, which is now essentially transferred into the firmed up agreement. I hope my ramblings made a bit of sense.
Thank you so much, my learned friend. And please let's clap for Cheryl, because we're learning, this is a master class. We're learning law, legal financing, we're learning power financing, we're learning a whole lot. And it's been quite an interesting time so far. And I'd like to, go to Alex, who's right by my right hand here, who inspired this research work in a great way. You inspired the book. And please let's clap for him. He inspired it. And you've been able to develop 25 mini grids. Clap for him again. So he's part of the solution, 25 mini grids. And, like the author said, finance, finance, finance. What is that single financing instrument which you believe, if it was made available tomorrow morning, it will aid what you do, help you make multiplication of, those grids you've been able to create so far? What is that single instrument? And why do you think it's not available?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My sister, Cheryl, happy birthday once again. Just like yesterday, I can't recall very well. I think probably in the bank, on the walkway or so, tell me more about this thing you guys are doing. And we just had that big conversation. And to think of the fact that that slight conversation of 3, 4, 5 minutes is what is consummating into this noble idea, I doff my hat for you. Honestly, I must be frank. Just for a bit of background, Madam Cheryl, as I call her, coincidentally, I and my very good friend seated in front row here, Alice, we were one of the private developers shortlisted by the African Development Bank and the World Bank to rapidly join in the efforts of accelerating electricity using decentralized solutions like mini-grids to a huge number of Nigerians who have little or no access to electricity. So I had just moved to the regional office, I think, Zenith Bank, and coincidentally, Cheryl was the manager managing us, and a lot of assistance from her. And it's shocking, but again, it's not so shocking. When people call me engineer, I say, don't call me, I don't want current to come after me. I'm a bloody political scientist, pardon the word, please. And everything about the sector is born out of passion, right? And today, I could sit in a deal room, sit in conversations with investors, be them those in terms of debt, commercial, whatever, mezzanine, forms of financing, and speak about the model. More critical is the fact that we cannot take away the fact that the energy poverty in the sub-Saharan Africa reside in Nigeria. Research has proven. So when we say 90 million, that conversation is born out of research. Reach out to the World Bank, reach out to Sustainable Energy for All. These are agencies that will come out with the clear facts to show you clearly that these gaps really exist, right? I will speak more to your question, but it's important to give people the chronology of how we have started. When we started mini-grids in 2016, 2017, emphasis were more on how do we reach the Nigerians on the last mile, right? Today we have communities that are 50 kilometers, some even way more than 70, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers away from the national grid. And you would agree with me that for us to keep extending the grid to these communities, it will be super expensive. It will not make economic sense to keep extending the grid. So it has been proven decentralized renewable energy resources remains the least cost avenue to get electricity to these people. Because today, I was talking to my friend earlier, the average cost, the normal small generator we know, they call it I pass my neighbor, right? In rural areas, today in Abuja, you buy fuel 1 liter for 1,300. In rural areas, the average cost you get 1,415 because they factor in the cost of transporting these fuels to those places. The average cost of I pass my neighbor per kilowatt hour, we've run the numbers, is about 1,100. Why people don't notice is they often put those generators when they need and put it off. But when you run the numbers, that's the cost it gives you. And if you're going to run diesel, you should be looking around with the current cost, around 900 naira, 950. So, I'm not talking because, I mean, of course, you look at the burning cost. I don't want to equate it per liter, per kilowatt hour. That's not how you equate the numbers. So, for us, we've seen it, and more importantly, there's something we cannot take away the fact. There's something Nigeria is doing that is putting Nigeria in the front map. Next to India, Nigeria today has over $1 billion catalytic funding on ground from DFIs like the World Bank and AFDB to enable private developers like myself leverage on it and go to the hard, most rich areas and be able to provide electricity. What is the funding that we need? A lot of people say grants. We don't want to do projects that are grants. For us, we saw grants as catalytic instrument. If you must build a sustainable business model, you must build a sustainable business model that is beyond grants, right? So what grants does is breaking the entry barrier. Because in all fairness, my brother said it. You will look at where the least risk factor exists. And that's where a lot of capitalists would typically want to put their investment. So we have run from building isolated mini-grids when we started. As a matter of fact, we started by building EPCs. So REA came up with the novel idea, we want to do pilot. Don't worry, you don't need to go there. We pay everything, we pay, we hand over. Then gradually we transitioned to, okay, can we just build this, put a bit of equity, attract some form of debt funding to go into it. And gradually we discovered that the debt funding to a large extent will stifle, in terms of return. Debt funding typically for commercial fundings, commercial debt funding to be precise. Today, I go to any commercial bank in Nigeria. Any debt funding that is beyond 5 years is a long thing for them. So they typically want to do something on 24 months, 3 years, and quickly. But we realize that there is a catalyst. And what is that catalyst? The catalyst is the fact that renewable energy companies like myself, my colleague, and some others seated here in the room today have been able to build a bankable portfolios of projects and approach guarantors like InfraCredit and leverage on institutional investors from the capital debt market. And we raise those financing which are blended, which are concessional, which are long-term and fit for purpose. And it is working. So before now, you would agree, the capital debt market is not where small players go and play. This is where the likes of Mobile, Dangote, and the rest go to raise funds. But the institutional investors have discovered that when you talk about electricity, You are talking about a catalyst that breaks the barrier of socio-economic development, empowerment of people at the grassroots. Today we have companies, we have communities that are enjoying 24 hours electricity. And the truth is this, where a lot of people talk about financing, the ability to pay. It has been proven. So long as you bring in metering into the mix, I mean, it gives more of confidence on people, and they have been. So I would say today, blended financing is a very critical one, because we need a capital that is patient. We need a capital that can help us leverage FX volatility. We need a capital that is readily available. And I would say I'm a beneficiary of it today, having raised funding from the capital debt market, and we are still going back again to do our second round of funding. So, Cheryl, my sister, I want to commend you for this. I am most humbled. Just an ordinary conversation, and think of the fact that it's consummating into a book is something that is novel and is very dear to my heart. Congratulations and God bless you.
Thank you so much. So you've heard him say it, blended finance, long-term finance, not the short one, but long-term finance. And before I want to go back to you, because you make a case for blended finance in your book and green bonds. I'm going to come to you in a minute. But before I do that, I've just been looking at this man in front of me, who is the man behind the birthday girl. Please clap for Dr. Chuka Ekejiako. Please stand up. Stand up. Let us see you very well. Even though his height is quite important. Because the truth is that when you see a woman, and I called him doctor on purpose, because when you see a woman who is able to combine a 9-to-5, combine a thriving business, have her doctorate, then she has peace. She has a supportive husband. She has a man who encourages her. She has a man who inspires her. She has a man who gives her so much that that money cannot buy and money can buy. So please, let us clap for Chuka once again. Thank you so much, sir, for all the support you give to our dear celebrant. So coming to you, Cheryl, straight away. You make a case for blended finance, and I need an answer in just like 40 seconds. But a walkthrough, a very short walkthrough of how the traditional capital stock has failed mini grids, and why blended finance, like he has mentioned, why does it actually work from your perspective as a banker, as someone who knows a lot about investments? Is it working? No, it's off now. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so can we hear her?
Hello? Am I audible now? Yes. Thank you. Okay, so the reason I say blended finance, cost of funds is huge. So you need a mix of financial options. That's the truth. Just like he said, you can't finance a long-term asset with short-term financing. It's a total mismatch. So when you have options, you make it easier for both the builder, the developer, and the investor who wants to make return on his investments. So you need a blend of financial options that will make it easier for him to pay back and also not run at a loss, because he's running the business, he must make some profits. And even the people who invest with him want to make a return on their investments. At the same time, the end user, you also don't want them to break a back just because they want to access energy. So that blended finance option helps to meet the needs of the cross-sector of stakeholders that are using energy at various levels.
Okay, thank you so much. Please clap for her. Clap for her. And just to bring the room into this conversation a bit, I want us to, we've all been listening, some of us have read the book. I want to ask a few questions to the audience to see if you are following. I want to ask a few questions. Let me ask the first question. What kind of finance do we need to help this sector and to make it grow? Who can answer me, please? Who said it? Please clap for her. Clap for her. And also, just to ask, does anyone have any questions, anything that they want the panel to answer? This is a good time. I can take 1 or 2 questions. There's a mic that is right there on the room. If you need, okay, please give it to Engineer Alice. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again. This is very interesting discussion, and I keep on saying wherever I see Alex, Alex is actually a very good orator. Sometimes we come to discussion and then I would say, Alex, please go in the front. I think you're the one to express everything. So particularly, I even supposed to be part of the panel, but for some reason, but Alex is already there, and I know that wherever about this financing, I remember one time when initially we were developing our mini grids in West Africa, most of Niger, Chad, and what have you. And when I came back to Nigeria and we were about to deploy to our project, and Alex has been the one that has always put me through, especially when it comes to finance. Alex took me to Zenith Bank, and when we met Madam Chair, and the first discussion that we started with Alex about this financing, I said, Alex, I always have issue with financing, and whenever we started the process of financing, a lot of documentations and paperwork and what have you, I always fall back to go, and of course, some blended finance, most of our project that we work on. Then Alex was actually the first person to introduce me to InfraCredit, and he keeps on guiding us, telling us, okay, see, this is how you should do, this is how you should do, you should try. And I said, Alex, I'm always afraid of how to go on with this. He said, you know what, there is no way you can continue doing what you're doing now. If you're developing 5 mini grids, 10 mini grids, it's okay if you have multiple stream of incomes and cash flow, but when you want to go big, you need big financing, and big financing doesn't come from individuals. Big financings come from blended financing, and we are seeing how you just mentioned most of our commercial banks. I think it's even, you're trying to be optimistic of saying that their financing is usually 3 years. Most of what they offer us, mostly 2 years financing. The MPR is very high. It doesn't make sense for us to actually tap into commercial banks with that high rate of MPI, even with the grant-funded projects we are doing, because a typical mini grid, both isolated and interconnected, without the grant, the break-even, we are talking about 7 years, 10 years, up to 15 years. So even the grants we're getting from the DFIs is usually to the risk developers and to come down with the levelized cost of energy. But you still need, sorry, I have to, it's very important, I'm really sorry, let me say this. So, one of the things that I keep on referencing to Alex because it's a bit personal, but I think it's something that we can see as general perspective. So today, we have closed financing with InfraCredit, which is about 5 billion in Naira, because in Naira financing, and we have also closed financing with IFC. We have never think of going through those processes, but what we close with IFC is about $20 million, and they are even about to add more. What that attracts to us is that our current portfolio projects include the World Bank and African Development Bank, and the other C&I projects we are doing is currently in excess of $57 million, thanks to how we now try to bridge this blended financing. So I think in every case, this is, sorry, in conclusion, I'm not really very good at financing as I'm an engineer, so and this is always when we sit down. I just want to see energy flowing. We understand the nature of energy. We have developed mini grid. When Alex said last mile community, we have developed mini grids where they are like 300 kilometers away from national grid. And I'm saying this, there are those communities. And we have reached to the stage of developing even an isolated mini-grid. Now we are talking about interconnected mini-grid, which one of these books. And a lot of things, maybe we'll keep on having another discussions later and sessions, but
thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Dr. Engineer Alice. So, you know, when Alex said passion, you can see the passion, and you can see that he really, to be honest, he would have been great on the panel as well, but he's spoken well. And I want to just take 40, so 2 people, can I take 2 and that's it? So I'm going to take Mrs. Chinyere Wala, 45 seconds, please. No speech, no, just 45 seconds. Let's know your question or your contribution quickly, because we have not finished the panel actually.
Okay, thank you. Because we're classmates, I used to be Chinyere Wala, but now I'm Chinyere Obi Obasi.
Sorry. She's my old girl.
No,
Chinyere Wala. I'm so sorry.
It's fine. It's still my name. Well, the fact of the matter is we want light. The average Nigerian wants light. And it's beautiful that we're here discussing financing. Most of it is flying through my head. I'm just asking myself, how do I get light? But one of the saddest things, or one of the things that just happened recently, and I don't know whether it's rumor, is that our government have removed themselves completely from national grid and are now solar-based. And whether is it 10 billion or how much, I don't know whether it's the truth or not. So if the government themselves have decided that this light thing, there is a big problem in it, we are leaving. What does that leave the ordinary man? That's number one. Number two, when you talk about financing and the amount of money in this country, I mean, we are still getting money from oil, a lot, even the taxes, everything, borrowing. Can't some of these things be given to the energy sector? Number three, our bills are getting increased every day. So I'm thinking that the excess of the money that they are taxing us is to help the sector. So now you are still talking about financing, and somebody is saying, I also heard something about generator, because we can afford to buy, that means we can, is it that we can pay more? Some of these issues are the things that are very cloudy. Why is the government, why did they even in the first place get into solar? Why?
Why? That's a question that needs some answers. I'm going to come to the gentleman right here. 1 minute. Yeah, the gentleman on the far left, he's standing up already. Please hand him the mic. Right in front here. In front. Because we have a few minutes. So I'm sorry I can't take everybody's question. Unfortunately, I wish I could. But I can. Please, 45 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone.
We need to wrap up.
Just for those who don't know, most of the people there are all classmates with us. So beyond the panel, we've known Midge Daddy and Cheryl. We're all classmates. Okay, this question is for Alex. This question is from the point of view of investors, private, medium, or small-size investors. Most of the numbers and things being talked about today, from what I can hear, are dealing with large capital markets or high-level government policy, etc. If we navigate this space, is there something we can refer to here that would guide the medium-sized investors to know how to exploit this bigger opportunity? Maybe there's some work that's been done is giving it so that somebody with maybe less than $1 billion or 100 million can say, oh, this is what we've seen as viable, and let's jump into it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, so 45 seconds is not working. So I'm going to say 20 seconds. Give the lady next to him 20 seconds now.
Hi, happy birthday, Cheryl. How are you? Sorry, can I see the panelists I'm talking to? So this is interesting because I had an investment team at the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Gas Infrastructure Fund. So gas is upstream of this value chain, right? And financing is a big issue in that space, especially gas infrastructure financing. So what the government has done, madam, because the government, I feel, is making effort, right, is to bring up something called equity financing. You know, it's another form of blending, right? So bring in some equity financing from the government, so the government takes equity in the project. And I did like your points, Alex, and takes equity in the projects to the risk and catalyze that initial investment. So you're then able to go to Cheryl, for example, in the bank and say, hey, we have this equity financing from the government. The capital is patient, right? So can we now access your financing at better rates? So there's a few of these mechanisms that exist, and I just wanted to highlight that as well. I'm wondering if that is happening in the electricity sector. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. So we have all the players. Please go to the back. There's a gentleman at the back with a blue filler. Please give him. So by getting answers in real time. Thank you so much for that, Adora.
Happy birthday, Doc. My name is Mark. So my question is basically about mini grids in urban areas. Most of the emphasis were on 50 kilometers. How do we make this more common in urban areas? How do we package it, sell it, so that we can have improved power? Thank you.
How do we sell it and package it? That's what he's asking. Okay, so we're going to see Auntie Winnie. Auntie Winnie, please. Auntie Winnie, 10 seconds, though. I've shortened the time. No, it's 10 seconds. Thank you, Ba.
Happy birthday, Cheryl. My own question is not, I don't even know if it's for this forum. Is there any hope of Nigeria having 24/7 light in my lifetime? Or will it be in my great-grandchild's lifetime? I want to know that because the infrastructure we have on ground that all of you are working with are obsolete. Something has to be done to that before all these things will work.
Thank you.
And the finance you need to actually do, electrification is no gainsaying. Will there be another Dangote that will rise for the energy sector in my lifetime?
Thank you, Auntie
Thank you
Winnie.
very much.
That's a very important and interesting question. And at that point, what I'm going to ask all of you is going to actually answer her question in some way. I want all of us to give us in one sentence. I love panels. I wish we could stay here for 30 more minutes, but unfortunately, I've been told that our time is up. But I want each of you to answer, starting from our celebrant. And it's going to answer Mrs. Atawode's question very well as Mrs. Obiobasi's question as well. If Nigeria is serious about closing the energy access gap in the next 4 years, that's 2030, what is one thing we must do differently to see that 24/7 power? I had to clap when he said some communities have 24 hours because we don't see it. Even in Abuja, we do not see it. What is that one thing? So please, I will pass the mic to Cheryl, and then we're going to come down. One sentence each. What is that one thing we can do?
For me, we can all contribute one way or the other. The one way for me is to speak about it, to speak about energy access is possible. I can buy the bit I can buy. I can pay the bit I can pay for what I can afford. But I will keep speaking to the government here that we need more power. We need more access to energy. We need to appeal to investors, private sector, philanthropists to support what the government is doing, because the cost of power is huge everywhere in the world. In fact, the first time I ever wrote a credit on power, I had to do a research on India. That was many years ago at the bank, and I realized that it cuts across everywhere. And with a nation with a huge population, you need to do so much more to make power available to the population. So
we need to do so much more, and it's all hands on deck. Thank you so much. Please clap for Dr. Cheryl Ekejiaku. Dr. Eke, we're coming straight to you. That one thing that we need to do.
Happy birthday, Dr. Cheryl. I'm sorry I forgot. How could I have forgotten? See, as an academic, we'll always go back to history. We need to declare a state of emergency. I am fortunate to be a son of Abia State, and I closely monitor what Dr. Oti is doing. Yes, geometry came before he was sworn in, but it is a model for other states. We need to declare a state of emergency, bring bright minds like this at the state level, at the national level, at least for a year, like Ghana did in the education sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much. He feels we should declare a state of emergency.
Okay, so I'll say two things, but merge them together. I do agree with Prof that we need to unbundle the existing structure that exists. I think we're trying too hard to get a different results doing the same thing all the time. So we need to unbundle it. We need to find a way to diversify the mix. I think not everybody needs to use the same sort of power. I think if you're in areas where there is gas, maybe that becomes your primary. If you're in areas up north where there is solar, that will become your primary. So I think we need to unlearn that feeling that we must all be connected to the national grid. Many people here have 24 hours of power. They probably just don't use gas power. So I think that mindset needs to be changed. So decentralize and then also diversify.
Decentralize, diversify. I was speaking to somebody in the UK, and he was saying that in Nigeria we have no business, that we can survive on solar, that he has a poultry. And you know how UK is, half of the year is dark once it's winter, and his poultry is off the grid for the most part. He's able to power how many thousands of birds he has using solar panels. So that's food for thought. So on to you. So please, anyone who is leaving, before you leave, please buy the books. We've not launched officially, or we've not presented. We have presented. Please buy the books before you leave. Don't leave without getting the book. So on to you, Alex. One thing.
One thing would be collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Collaboration that cuts across the various value chain, from that customer that wants to get energy, and he should be willing to pay for that energy. For that energy mix that fits every respective needs, be it decentralized, be it gas, be it whatever. But most importantly, at the heart of it, every segment must collaborate for us to kill this energy poverty. Thank you.
Okay, since we're talking about financing energy transition in Africa, I think, talking from the perspective of a lawyer, the first thing I would say is that we need to start to respect sanctity of contracts. That is what breeds investor confidence. The problem with Nigeria in the power sector specifically is that over the years we've tried to solve the problem in silos without, considering the fact that there's an entire value chain. So we think we do not generate enough, so we fund NIPP to build 10 power plants, and then we think, oh, distribution isn't doing enough, oh, we privatize, and then bring in people without the technical competence and the liquidity to take over the sector. And then we leave transmission in the hands of a government agency where we have all agreed over the years that government has no business doing business. And so we have dilapidated transmission infrastructure. So we need to start respecting the sanctity of contracts, and we need to invest in the existing infrastructure. We cannot be talking about transition like the REA boss said, when we're still in darkness. We cannot be, you don't, I think it was the case of McFoy and UBA who said they cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Sanctity of contracts, we need to start there. The legal framework is there, the acts are there. Are we doing what we need to do? Are we starting to help ourselves? Because we are truly at a crossroad in our energy sector in Africa, and Nigeria is like 90% of that. What are we going to do to solve this problem? Dr. Ikejaku tries, and she's made a good attempt to talk about the things that need to be done. We've heard it all, blended finance. We've heard it off-grid, on-grid, PPP, green bonds, and so many other things that need to be done. Some of us need to look for our own solutions while we are waiting to see that if it is possible, that in our lifetime, all the connected mini grids will actually become one grid. Maybe, maybe not. But let's stay hopeful and let's do our own parts. Congratulations, Dr. Ikejaku. And thank you to this panel. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. Thank you so much for listening.
I'd like to quickly say a big thank you to our moderator. I think she's done a fantastic job. Can we give her a round of applause? And then just before we leave, please, I want to acknowledge someone who's been here since morning, since we started. Mr. Diron Adeswa, representing the Chief Technical Advisor to the Minister of Power, who unavoidably had to be absent. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thanks for coming.
Your distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please let's appreciate the panel once again with a round of applause. We would want to capture this moment on camera. photographic, the photographer, I beg your pardon, please, let's have a snapshot of members of the panel, the moderator, the author. Let's have a copy each of the book. Each copy of the book will be handed over to the moderator, the panelist, and the author. And by extension, we are warming up for the unveiling. Please, it will be a travesty of this process if you leave this room without a copy of the book and, of course, the appropriate support to express your candid gratitude to the author for coming up with this project, which is supposed to revolutionize the outlook of our energy sector. Thank you very much. Please, let's appreciate them once again with a round of applause. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we've gotten to yet another high point of this event, which is the reveal, the big reveal, the book unveiling. And so we would want to please implore our guests to hold on. It's important that we all witness this. The details for those who are not going to purchase the book outrightly, details of the account where we can actually send in the resource for the book. We have a bare minimum, will be pasted on the screen. Please, let's settle as we go through this process. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the moment this invitation promised you. At the far end of the hall, there's a mechanism that's spinning one of the book. Alongside, somewhere within that chamber, we have a stack of this work by Dr. Cheryl Ikejiako. In each book is 289 pages. Years of research, 5 ground level case studies, a 3-pillar framework of forward endorsements from players and stakeholders in industry, and most importantly, an answer, or at least a serious attempt at one, to the question of how we power the African continent. To formally present this work to the world, I invite very respectfully the author of the book, Dr. Cheryl Uche Ikejiako. She's going to stand very close to the table, the tabular platform. The ushers, I hope they are ready for the unveil. We want to appreciate all our guests. Please, this is a moment in history. Please let me have your attention. The author will go very close to where the book, the reveal, the grand reveal will take place. And very shortly, we will unveil this book officially. She's going to be flanked afterwards. That's after the first photo pose, with members of the panel, her husband, and also other stakeholders who are here to grace her with the pleasure of their company. All right. So, are we ready for the big unveil? Ladies and gentlemen, are we ready for the big unveil? So, I am going to reel out the word, a catch word, a word that gets our attention, that's actually been used a couple of times, the catalyst. We're going to spell the word catalyst, from the first alphabet to the last one. Ladies and gentlemen, when I call out the alphabets, you will respond after me. Are we ready? Are we ready? Can someone give me a C? We want some energy in that, please. Let there be an energy in the response. Can someone give me a C? Can someone give me an A? Can someone give me a T? Can someone give me an A? Can someone give me an L? Can someone give me a Y? Can someone give me an S? Can someone give me a thunderous T? And that's the reveal. Financing the energy transition in Africa, interconnected mini-grids and sustainable development in Nigeria by Dr. Cheryl U. Ikejiako. As a demonstration of our solidarity and support for this intellectual work of arts, we will have our top representation from all the organizations in the public and the private sector officially honor this book release. So we will start with the president of the Genova Group,